And we're back. We're behind the scenes at Live on Purpose Radio today, and we're welcoming our YouTube audience. I like to invite you guys. This is unscripted, it's just me live, and you get to be a part of this experience uh, because I just felt like inviting you. So I hope you enjoy this. We're taking on a topic today that is really actually pretty popular on the YouTube channel because a lot of parents realize at some point that the game changes a little bit when your kids become adults. People ask me sometimes, how many kids do you have, Dr. Paul? And I'm like, zero. You come over to my house, look around, you won't find any kids. There's four adults that I raised. Vicki and I together have launched four of our children out into the world, but we don't have any kids anymore. We'll get into that a little bit and some of the dynamics behind it. So you're behind the scenes. Stick around. I'm going to go podcast mode in just a moment, and you can just listen in as I record this episode. You get to hear it first, and then this will air on the podcast, Live on Purpose Radio, and you can get that anywhere you pick up your podcasts. Subscribe if you haven't. I would love to have you be part of that audience as well. And then stick around after we finish the recording. I usually do a little bonus material afterwards. So I just realized I need my hydration. We're going to stay hydrated for this. And behind the scenes, you get all of the extra TMI, I guess. All right, here we go. I will pull up the screen that I need, and we're off to the races. This is Live on Purpose Radio, episode 682, How to Be a Good Parent to Adult Children. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live on Purpose Radio. This is Dr. Paul, the shrink who expands your life with a special episode of Live on Purpose Radio. This is coming up a lot for me, maybe because of my phase of life. Parenting doesn't stop. When your kids turn 18 or 21, it just changes. And in this episode, let's explore together what it means to be a good parent in this next phase of life, especially when our grown children are making choices that we don't control. Have you noticed? So we'll talk about detaching from the outcomes, how to practice curiosity over control, and embrace your most important job, to love them, no matter what, and even if. So if you're navigating some tension in this area, or you just want to strengthen your connection with your adult kids, you are in the right place. So let's jump in. Your adult children are making their own choices now. Have you noticed that? Now, maybe you've got younger kids, they're still at home, but you're going to get to a point where you'll work yourself out of a job. And what I mean by that, see, we don't control the other humans, with the exception of our own children for a while. It's not a permanent arrangement. See, when our kids come to the planet, they are very helpless. My daughter took me with her to a humanitarian project she was working on in Kenya. And as we were visiting Africa, you got to go on a safari, right? And so we're out on safari and we're watching the most beautiful animals out there, and they hit the ground running. Many of these animals, as soon as they're born, they gather themselves up a little bit, get on their feet, and they start running. Why? Because they're going to be lunch if they don't. This is not true of adult children. Not adult children. This is not true of human children because they're so helpless. And I look at my little grandbabies now, and when they're first born, they can't do anything for themselves. They can't even turn over. And so they require the adults in their life to take care of them. And that's why parenting is such an involved process for humans. And they stay vulnerable and they stay immature for a long time. The developmental process for humans is so different from, say, an antelope or a giraffe. But they have to have someone that's able to share control with them. I teach a model in all of the parent coaching that I do called the moral development model. And in that model, we learn how to share control based on the maturity of our kids. And this is a model that every parent needs to know. And I'll give you a way that you can connect to that in just a minute. But the short version is we have to control our kids and their lives when they're little. But as they grow, they take the control, whether we want to share it with them or not. And if you haven't noticed this yet, pay attention. Your kids will reveal it to you as they start to take control over their own life. And at some point, they fire us as controllers in their life. So it's in our best interest to figure out how to share this control appropriately. Now, your peace doesn't depend on how your kids control their lives. Being a good parent at this stage, when our kids are adults, means detaching from the outcomes and focusing on the relationship. See, we get into this sense that we have to make sure that they, whatever, right? In fact, I ask this in a lot of the parenting seminars that I do. What's your job as a parent? And I get this. Really good answers, by the way. Well, it's to make sure that they're safe. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good, doesn't it? To make sure that they do their chores, do their homework, to make sure that they become responsible citizens of the planet. These are all such great answers, but there's a problem because we don't control those outcomes, even making sure that they're safe. Kids get hurt all the time. Well, what's the matter? Is the parent neglectful? In some cases, that may be the case, but in the vast majority, no. It's a side effect of living on planet Earth. Welcome to the planet. That's how we roll here. So we can't make sure that they anything. Because of that, one of the best things we can do strategically as parents is to detach from the outcomes. I mean, their outcomes, whether they get the A, whether they land the job, whether they get accepted to that college. We don't control those outcomes. So detaching from the outcomes means that we're okay either way. Your peace doesn't depend on their performance. Now, I've also taught many times that somebody has to be attached to the outcome. If it's you, it's not your child. We get to start this when they're little, when they're teenagers, practice detaching from the outcomes. This is one of the hardest things that I ask parents to do because we get pretty attached to their outcomes. And I'm not saying detach from the child, from the person, from the relationship. In fact, we're going to pour a lot of energy into that, but we detach from the outcomes. Now let's get to the next point. And this was captured best, I think, by Mel Robbins in her book, Let Them, which I recommend to all parents. As Mel Robbins teaches, one of the healthiest things that we can do is simply let them. Let them struggle. Let them learn. Let them grow. Instead of controlling, get curious. Ask questions, listen. Show up as a calm, supportive presence. Rather than controlling, if we get curious and show an interest in them, it puts us in a position where they may want to use us as a consultant. But notice that consultation is by request or demand or invitation only. You can't just impose your opinions on other humans. It is never well received. And because we get lulled into this sense of, well, we do control our children, we continue to do that when they're way past the maturity stage where that's even helpful. So we're going to shift. Now, let me address a hidden issue here that you're going to recognize immediately. Part of my job is to illuminate the obvious, which is fun because I get paid to tell people things they already know. And you probably already know this. Children don't keep. And I was joking about this earlier when I said, ask me how many children I have. The answer is 0. I have no children. There are 4 adults that I love dearly that Vicki and I raised in our home, but they're not kids. And I was visiting with one of our certified positivity practitioners that I'm training and mentoring. And her daughter, who is 4 years old right now, is in her 10th month of intensive cancer treatment. And we were having a little chat about this as she said, I really miss my vibrant, healthy, energetic 3-year-old little girl, curly-headed, stout, athletic. And now her 4-year-old, this little girl had a birthday during the cancer treatments. Her 4-year-old is now underweight and bald and lacking energy and listless and irritable. And she misses her vibrant 3-year-old. And it sounds insensitive sometimes to some people, but it's true. I lost 4 3-year-olds. I miss them. They were so cute and vibrant and healthy, and they no longer exist. My 4 3-year-olds all turned into 4-year-olds. Now, not all of them do. I know some parents lose their children at an early age. They die. Now, I call this to your attention because even if they don't die, you lose them. Your 3-year-old becomes a 4-year-old. You don't have a 3-year-old anymore, and you will miss them. And your 4-year-old, I lost 4 of those too. They all became 5-year-olds, and not all of them do. But you lose every one of your children at some point, in some way. Why are we having this conversation? I just want to open your eyes to a truth here. Children don't keep, and we lose all of them. And sometimes as parents, we get so attached to hanging on to who our child was that we are unable to really sustain a relationship with who they are now. And this is particularly true of our adult children. Your children don't exist anymore. Once they become adults, they're gone. And I don't mean gone out of your life. I mean gone out of childhood. They no longer exist as children. And you would never interact with another adult human on this planet the way you try to interact with your children based on hanging on to this need to control, this attachment to the outcomes. And it damages relationships. I can give you story after story, example after example of how this is true. And you may have already seen this in your own family. So let's accept that our children no longer exist and be grateful for the time that we had instead of focusing on the loss, because loss is inevitable. You will lose every one of your children. Can you handle that? Now, as you engage with that, let's get back to your job. Your job is not to make sure that they anything. That's where we go wrong. And especially with adults, that is annoying. That is off-putting. They will fire you and run fast and far. And I see this so often. It's so tragic that relationships are destroyed because of parents trying to hang on to control. It's not your job to make sure that they anything. It's not to shape their life. Your job hasn't changed. It's to be a source of unconditional love. You love them no matter what, and even if. That love, offered freely without an agenda, becomes the most powerful influence that you still have. And you do have influence, but you don't have control. In fact, I was thinking about Mel's title, Mel Robbins, in Let Them. You know, it implies that it's up to you. I remember one of the moms I was working with, well, am I just supposed to let him fail? Meaning her son, who was failing school. And I'm like, what do you mean let him? Like it's up to you? Like you have something to say about it? You don't control that. So let them, that phrase is more for us as parents. It has nothing to do with whether we control the outcome or not. We don't. So let them is a way of letting go of our need to control things and switching that energy over to curiosity, the ability that you have to get to know another human on this planet. And this is not your child. This is an adult who used to be your child, but it's not your child now. That mental shift can make all the difference. You wonder, why am I so passionate about this right now? Because that's my phase. That's where Vicky and I are right now. You see hundreds of videos that I put out on YouTube about parenting. And we raised 4 kids, but we don't have any kids now. So now as we wrap our heads around, okay, what is this new phase of life and what does this look like? The relationships that you can share with your adult children can be so deeply rewarding. And it requires some personal development. Do you want some more tools for creating some peace, connection in your own family, in your own heart? Come on over to the Parenting Power Up. I mentioned the control and maturity model, the moral development model that we teach in our parent coaching classes. I've put together a full course that's based on that model. It's called the Parenting Power Up. And I invite you to engage at that level. If you're ready to take your parenting to the next level, just go on over to Live on Purpose Radio. That's the name of the podcast, liveonpurposeradio.com/parenting. And you'll see what we're having to offer there. I've thrown in some bonuses for the holidays and to just show my appreciation for you coming in. This is a model that all parents need to know, including those who don't have any kids anymore, like me. Did you get something that is useful today? I hope that you did. Share this episode with someone that you know would benefit and tell them you're welcome as you share it, because this is potentially life-saving for a lot of folks and for some relationships. All right, we've heard it. We've talked about it. It's time to go live on purpose. And that's a wrap for the podcast. Thanks for jumping in behind the scenes. You know, bonus material, I shared most of what was on my mind as we were going through the episode itself. I've been thinking a lot about this because the more mature I get, And that's a way of saying, yeah, I'm getting older, right? But the more mature I get, and I've been paying attention, the more I realize how central our relationships are to our happiness. And it's not about, well, we'd have a good relationship if they would just whatever. And we always have some answer to that. If they would just behave more, if they would treat me better, if they would do better at their job, whatever. And we get trapped in this, I would be happy if or when. And it's a trap. The other model that we talk about a lot on the podcast, but also on the YouTube channel, is the positivity model. And if you want a copy of this, just go to drpauljenkins.com/the model. And I'll put a copy of this into your inbox with a little description about what it's about. I've also got a mini book that describes that. By the way, if you go to that Parenting Power Up, you'll see that I'm throwing this in as one of the bonuses. You can get a copy of that mini book. And the big book, by the way, my full-size book, Pathological Positivity. What is really crucial to our happiness is never about our circumstances. It's about our thinking about our circumstances. And your kids, their lifestyle choices, who they bring into the family, because you don't choose who your kids invite into the family. Okay. I'm working with some families right now where that's an issue. And it's not up to you. So let them is all about relinquishing control. Okay, I don't control that. And putting yourself in a good place relative to your circumstances, because from that energy, you can move forward and create some amazing, amazing outcomes. That's about manifesting what you really want. I was thinking this morning, I think I'm going to put together a special course on the creation model and how we actually create what is to be, the psychological processes behind that. That's stay tuned. I think that's going to be launched here early next year. And we've also got some other fun things coming. So stay tuned. Thank you for being here behind the scenes. Such a pleasure to be on your team and such an honor. And I wish you the best as you move forward with your parenting adventures. And again, share this with someone that you think would really benefit. Would you do that? Okay, awesome.